Yo, YouTube. Today, I felt like it was only right that I come back with some Bleach glaze. We got What Separates Bleach from the Big Three by Me Spy. Let's see what he's talking about.
Souls comes out this month.
Hold on.
It's March, which means Bleach Rebirth of Souls
It is not March, but when you dropped this, it was March.
comes out this month. So I figured I would make a Bleach video specifically highlighting what separates Bleach from
Didn't Bleach whatever that game called like flop crazy? Why am I surprised? Anime fighting games.
the rest of the big three. Now I just got done watching the big three. I watched Naruto first years ago. I then watched One Piece, and lastly I watched Bleach. They got a lot of similarities. That goes without saying. Being part of the big three makes you some of the most inspirational pieces of work ever. All three of them are shonen. All three of them are peak. Every time I get the chance, I have to mention that all of them are peak because
I respect that, cause a lot of niggas don't like to give Bleach their credit. You gotta give them, or you gotta say all three is peak. Even though I ain't watch One Piece, I always tell y'all I think One Piece is good. Let me stop capping.
see people on social media, oh, One Piece sucks, nuh-uh, Naruto sucks, nuh-uh, Bleach sucks. They're all great, but now that I've watched the
Look, One Piece is great. Don't get me wrong, One Piece is great. It's just not for me.
entirety of the big three, I feel like I can finally determine a favorite. When I watched Naruto for the first time years ago, I said Naruto's the best in the big three. How would I know that? I haven't even watched the entirety of the big three, but now I have, so I can safely and confidently, and I've given it some time, so none of y'all can claim recency bias. I've given it a lot of time. I can say Bleach is my favorite in the big three. You know, every anime in the big three has its own individual attributes that makes it unique from one another. I just like Bleach's more, so that's what I'm going to talk about in this video, the attributes, the aspects of Bleach that make it my favorite anime of all time. And
I'm not gonna lie, like if you really recently got into Bleach, like can you count Thousand Year Blood War? Like just curiously asking, cause like you gotta think about it. The niggas that used to fight against Bleach, they were fighting against Bleach without Thousand Year Blood War. Now they gotta fight against Thousand Year Blood War. I don't think it's fair. Like you can't realistically say Bleach is ass when Thousand Year Blood War is out. You realistically can't say that shit no more. You
I
can't.
think the first most evident one is the tone of Bleach. By the time I got to the Soul Society arc, I realized that Bleach is probably the most serious anime in the big three and the one that has the darkest tone. And that's not to say that the other animes in the big three can't get dark at times. They don't tackle dark subject matters, because they definitely do. I would be a fool if I sat here and tried to tell you, oh yeah, Naruto doesn't get dark when Itachi killing his whole family is right there. I would be a fool to tell you One Piece doesn't get dark, even though it's goofy for a majority of it. Dressrosa, Wano, those arcs are dark in nature. So every anime in the big three is able to get dark when it has to. Every anime in the big three can shift gears and immediately get into that dark and gritty. But again, by the time I got to the Soul Society arc, I realized this is kind of the norm for Bleach. The other anime in the big three, this is most definitely not the norm. While One Piece can get serious,
I'm not gonna lie, Soul Society, like that's not even where like shit really like it got dark moments, but we all know that on Ronkar, that Ronkar arc, that's when shit got spooky for real. That's when shit got dark.
it can get dark. The majority of One Piece is kind of goofy. Same thing goes for Naruto OG. It does get a lot darker and a lot more serious in nature when we get to Shippuden. But after watching the big three, when it comes to holding and sustaining that tone for the majority of the anime, I think it's Bleach that does it the best. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh yeah, animes that are serious by nature are objectively better, because, you know, that's an opinion. That's just my take. It's the reason I gravitate towards animes like Attack on Titan, Made in Abyss, and the anime that we're talking about, Bleach. It's just what I like. If you like animes that are funnier, say like Psyche K, that's perfectly okay. If you like the goofiness of One Piece, I like it too. But when it comes to getting immersed in an anime, the tone that is being set plays such a pivotal role in getting me hooked. And Bleach just sets the tone to perfection. But the other thing that sets Bleach apart from the rest of the big three that I want to talk about is the power system. Now, when I was getting into Bleach, I knew basically nothing about the power system.
I'm not gonna lie, maybe like base Bleach power system, nice. Thousand Year Blood War, let's not talk about Thousand Year Blood War. We got niggas We got niggas with some crazy powers in Thousand Year Blood War. They throwing the power scaling out the window in that bitch. I'm just keeping a bitch. I'm, I'm I'm just keeping it a book. I'm just keeping it a book.
Itself, which I cannot say for Naruto because I knew about chakra before I started watching it, and I can't say for One Piece either because I knew about devil fruits, but I didn't know about haki. Now, out of the big three, there is one anime that has a power system that is just not up to par with the other two, and that is One Piece. Now, again, this is an objective, but I have seen this be kind of agreed upon when it comes to the big three. I think Naruto's power system is peak, to be honest. I think it's amazing. Same thing with Bleach. When it comes to devil fruits and hockey, it's, you know, kind of just mid. But I think out of all the anime in the big three, Bleach has the most nuanced power system. There's so much that goes into the power system of Bleach that it gives characters so much personality. It even gives weapons personalities. I don't know about y'all, but when it comes to the Bleach power system and describing it, the first word that comes to my mind is Bankai, which is interesting because it's an amp of a weapon, whereas the other two
I mean, come on. Let's be real. That's like saying like when you first hear JJK powers, you think of the domain expansion. That's just like the most flashy move in the show. So of course that's the first thing you think of. Like I see the correlation, but it's kind of a drag though. Like
animes, their main power system amps the user, the person. And I know the other two animes kind of experiment with abilities being attributed to weapons, like Zoro's badass, come on. And I guess Naruto has Tenten, guys, but Bleach just does it better. And I think that's one word safe to say, like, that is just factually correct. You know, the Naruto kunai is cool, I guess. You know, we've seen it used by a bunch of no-name 10-day contract ninjas, but they don't hold a candle to any of the Zanpakutos and their Bankai in Bleach. We're talking about a power system that is so influential. We're influencing some of the biggest new-gen animes of today, especially JJK, which I've been watching and I've been enjoying, but, you know, I digress. Whereas you look at Naruto, and while the chakra system is great, it seems to be an inspiration of Nen from Hunter x Hunter. Then we look at One Piece. I don't want to dog on One Piece too hard because I love One Piece, but the concept of devil fruits isn't really screaming creativity. And we don't even need to talk about the weaponry because when we talk about the power system as a whole, when Bleach introduces the concept of hollows, Arankars, Soul Reapers, Quincy's, Fullbringers, there's so many ways for somebody to be strong, and falling under one of those categories not only works as the genesis of their power, but also explains stuff about the character. If somebody in Bleach is an Arankar, you already know of the arduous process it took them to become an Arankar. This is why I believe Bleach to have the best power system in the big three.
I can't agree with that. I can't agree with that though, no cap.
It's far more intricate and interesting to learn about than One Piece's power system and even Naruto's power system. And I don't say that lightly because, again, I think it's great. But man, when I think about the big three and I look back at some of the hypest moments, in my opinion, we gotta talk about some of the Bankai reveals. When Ichigo first used his Bankai, one of the best moments in Bleach. Rukia's first Bankai, amazing. One of my favorite moments in Core 2 of Thousand Year Blood War. All of it is facilitated by the power system, and that's why I think it's the best power system.
Like, realistically, I know I already said this, but like if I watched Bleach Thousand Year Blood War, like as I was watching Bleach, like after I watched Naruto and I watched Bleach Thousand Year Blood War, like even if I watched Bleach Thousand Year Blood War before Naruto, like all together Bleach plus Thousand Year Blood War, like I feel like I would have the same opinion. Like Thousand Year Blood War is just like the cherry on top of the sundae. Like Bleach, it's good. Like it's a good fucking ice cream shake. But like Thousand Year Blood War is that fucking topping. Is that cherry? Is that come on? It's that whipping, bro. It just finished this shit off so good. It's not even done yet.
In the big three. But now the third aspect of Bleach that separates it from the other two anime in the big three, Bleach is not afraid to not be a shonen. And what I mean by that is that the other two anime in the big three tend to follow the battle shonen anime archetype throughout the entirety of the show. And while Bleach is majority battle shonen, it's not afraid to deviate at times. For example, the Fullbringer arc. Now I really love the Fullbringer arc, and reading some of
a nigga that likes the Fullbringer arc? This is a rare sighting. We don't see a lot of these. I'm not gonna lie, this is a rare sight. 90% of the niggas hate this arc. I'm not. I don't include myself in those 90%. I think the Fullbringer arc is fine. Like it's a good arc, but not a lot of people like that arc. That's surprising.
Y'all comments, y'all love the Fullbringer arc too. And even though
Who is y'all? I swear to God, I've been fighting this Fullbringer arc battle for years. Where did these niggas come from that like the Fullbringer arc all of a sudden?
the Fullbringer arc does have fights in there, I would say for like 95%, the Fullbringer arc is a psychological thriller. For the biggest part of the Fullbringer arc, we are not watching fights. We're not watching good guy versus bad guy. We are watching Kubo create a feeling of eeriness and suspense and seeing how it affects Ichigo mentally, and it is just amazing. And I love how Kubo is not afraid to experiment like that when it comes to Bleach. And while the other anime in the big three do have moments where it strays away from the action, it's not to the extent that Bleach does it. Bleach's ability to alternate between slice of life, thriller, action, mystery, it's so good. Within the big three, there's no other arc like the Fullbringer arc. It's something that Naruto hasn't done, and it's something that One Piece hasn't done yet either. This is all without getting into the Soul Society arc, which I've talked about way too many times, where you do have the action elements at the forefront, but you have a very important subplot being woven in throughout the arc that has nothing to do with fights, nothing to do with action, not until the very end at least. It's just creating tension and creating a sense of mystery throughout the arc. Who killed Aizen? As much as I love the other two anime in the big three, they're not able to thrive in a separate genre like Bleach is able to. At least they haven't shown it, because I know the authors are very capable of writing something like that. Oda and Kishimoto are great writers. It's just something that they haven't experimented with in their animes like Kubo has. Next up, one of the most important differences between Bleach and the other two anime in the big three is the main character's goal. It's the reason I saved it for this late in the video, because it might be one of the most important differences between these three animes. Before I got into Bleach, when I had only watched Naruto and One Piece, I remember seeing a whole slew of people saying Ichigo is a boring main character.
Crazy.
He's not that good, worse than the big three by far. And oh, by the way, plus he has no goal. And out of everything, the thing that bothers me the most is when people says he has no goal. People that say that, I'm not even sure if they've watched Bleach, but I think I understand why people say that. And it's because
here's something that I realized with Chainsaw Man recently, you know, and if you know, you know, I think people like struggle relating to main characters, because not even relating, that's not what I meant to say. I think people struggle with understanding main characters. Like if it's not like a simple fucking plot like Naruto and Luffy, like they have a hard time understanding what that character is trying to do, what they're trying to solve, what they're trying to prove, or like just understanding what that character went through, or why the way they are. Like this shit with Chainsaw Man and Denji, like you would think like people are watching a whole different show than the shit that you're watching. And it's kind of the same thing with Ichigo. Like people don't understand why he does the things that he do, and it makes him seem goalless to some people. It just doesn't make sense. It's like I think people gotta slow down and really understand characters more, and that might help out with your enjoyability, like with anime.
because Ichigo's goal is not tangible like the other two animes in the big three. You look at Naruto, his goal is to be acknowledged by the people of his village. How does he do that? He becomes the Hokage. That is a tangible thing that he can acquire. We'll know when Naruto reaches his goal when he becomes the Hokage. Same thing with Luffy. What is his goal? To be free. How does Luffy become free? Become the king of the pirates. We'll know when Luffy reaches his goal because we'll see him become the king of the pirates. But with Ichigo, his goal is to protect his friends, protect the people that he cares about, and protect the people that he loves. But unlike the other two anime in the big three, there is no tangible mark to see when that goal has been reached, because it is a goal that inherently can never end. Ichigo wants to protect his friends. As long as his friends are in danger, Ichigo has something to protect, whereas Naruto has already reached his goal by being acknowledged by the people of his village and becoming Hokage. Luffy will eventually reach his goal by becoming king of the pirates and being free. But unlike the other two, there will never be a point where Ichigo stops protecting his friends. There is no end to that goal, and that's why I believe people don't think he...
Especially when there's niggas like you or Baba popping up. Like, yeah, that nigga never ending, boy. He might as well never think about retirement. Niggas like you about to keep popping up.
Has one, but it doesn't make it any less of a goal because that has been his goal for every single arc. Soul Society, protect Rukia. Arrancar arc, protect Orihime. Fullbringer arc, protect his friends because he has become powerless. Thousand-Year Blood War, protect the world. Yet people will sit there in front of you with a straight face and tell you that Ichigo has no goal. You don't know what you're talking about.
Crazy.
If anything, I think Ichigo has the most relatable goal out of any main character in the big three. You know, I relate to Luffy's goal a lot about freedom. I would love to be free, financially speaking. And while Naruto does have a touching backstory to accommodate his goal, I think that Ichigo's goal to protect his friend is as fundamental as you can get. To protect the people you love and care about is relatable to every living being on this planet. It makes Ichigo feel like the most realistic and the most relatable main character in the big three, that he has a goal that is so simple that every one of us have. And Ichigo's relatability is another difference between Bleach and the big three, because I don't think that there is another main character in the big three that reflects a normal person like Ichigo does. Luffy is an amazing main character and his representation of freedom is unmatched. But if we're talking about relatability, Luffy is uncharacteristically stupid. Cartoonishly stupid. He's also cartoonishly happy, cartoonishly upbeat. And while Luffy's overly charismatic attitude might serve as a beacon for people to be like, I much prefer Ichigo's down-to-earth relatability as a main character. Naruto is also within that relatable ballpark, but the way that Ichigo's mentality is broken down again during the Fullbringer arc, such an underrated arc, is what makes him a tad bit more relatable than Naruto. It's really Ichigo's introspection that makes me love him so much. It took me a while to say that I like Ichigo more than Naruto, but the moment during the Soul Society arc where he has to look within and put his faith in Zangetsu, which he doesn't fully understand at that point, the moments where he loses his power in order to protect his friends, but now that he's lost his power, he has no way to sustain that goal of protecting his friends. While the other characters in the big three might have more ambitious goals, Ichigo is the main character that is written with the most depth. He is the character that is given the most love when it comes to writing, despite having the least flashy goal, I suppose. It's not, oh, become the Hokage, become the king of the pirates. It might not be eye-catching, but you know, it sure is touching to know that his ambition is simply protect the people that he loves. That's why I love Ichigo. That's what I think separates Ichigo from the other MC in the big three. It's why I grew to love Bleach. Now keep in mind, the title of this video is what separates Bleach from the big three, not what makes it better, because you can disagree and that's a-okay. That's 100% fine. I'm just pointing out the differences, and I just like the differences in Bleach more. But thank y'all for watching this far. I appreciate.
I agree. This is a great video, and I just love how he had to double down and tell y'all like this is not what's better. This is just my opinion on the matter and why I think it separates itself from the other team. Great video, me spy. I love Bleach Glaze, and you will always get a view out of me if you dropping some Bleach Glaze. Dead ass. Dead ass. So you like the video? You'll like this one too. Go ahead and click on that. Yeah. You're still here? So you don't fuck with me? Alright, I'ma just.